I never wanted to move to Maple Street. The town was too quiet, too perfect. The kind of neighborhood where every lawn looked trimmed with scissors and every porch light turned on at exactly the same time every evening. My wife Emily loved it though. She said it felt safe for our 6-year-old daughter, Sophie. We moved into the old gray house at the end of the cul-de-sac during late October. The realtor mentioned the house had been vacant for years after the previous owner died alone inside it. She laughed awkwardly when she told us and said, "But don't worry, natural causes." That first night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the house felt wrong. Not haunted exactly, just watched. At around 2:13 a.m., I heard footsteps above our bedroom ceiling. Slow. Heavy. Like boots dragging across wooden floors. I nudged Emily awake. "Do you hear that?" She listened for a second before mumbling, "Probably the pipes." But I knew it wasn't pipes. The footsteps continued for nearly 5 minutes before suddenly stopping directly above our bed. Then came 3 knocks. Thud. 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 Right above us. I grabbed the baseball bat beside the bed and checked the upstairs hallway. Nothing. No movement. No sound. But when I reached Sophie's room, her door was slightly open. And she was sitting upright in bed. Wide awake. Staring into the corner of her room. "Sophie?" I whispered. She slowly pointed toward the wall beside her closet. And quietly said. The man was standing there again. The next morning, Emily insisted Sophie probably had a nightmare. I wanted to believe that too. But Sophie kept describing the same man. Every single day. She said he was tall and wet and smelled like dirt. She claimed he stood silently near her closet at night watching her sleep. Children imagine things sometimes, but this felt different. 3 nights later, I heard scratching noises inside the walls. At first it sounded faint. Like mice. But then it became louder. Long scraping sounds moving slowly through the hallway walls toward Sophie's room. SCHHK. SCHHK. I followed the sound with a flashlight while Emily stayed in bed pretending not to hear it. The scratching stopped once I reached the hallway vent. Then I heard breathing. Not behind me. Inside the vent. Deep. Wet. Human breathing. I froze. The flashlight trembled in my hand as I leaned closer to the vent opening. And suddenly, something scratched violently against the metal from the other side. I stumbled backward in terror. Emily rushed upstairs asking what happened. Before I could answer, Sophie screamed. We ran into her room and found her standing on the bed crying hysterically. Words were carved into the wooden floor beside her bed. 3 words. "He is under." None of us slept that night. The following morning, I called a contractor to inspect the house. But when he checked beneath the floors, he discovered something impossible. There was an empty crawlspace directly beneath Sophie's bedroom. A crawlspace that did not appear on any blueprint of the house. The contractor refused to go inside the crawlspace alone. He said the smell coming from it was unbearable. Like rotten meat mixed with mildew. I grabbed a flashlight and volunteered to go with him. The entrance was hidden beneath loose floorboards inside the storage room near the kitchen. As soon as we opened it, cold air rushed upward. The crawlspace was impossibly deep. At least 6 feet down. The contractor climbed first while I followed behind him. The dirt beneath us was damp and soft like freshly turned soil. The flashlight beams revealed scratch marks all over the wooden beams above us. Human scratch marks. The deeper we crawled, the stronger the smell became. Then the contractor suddenly stopped moving. "What the hell is that?" he whispered. I aimed my flashlight forward. And nearly vomited. There were children's toys scattered across the dirt. Old toys. Covered in mud. A tiny shoe. A red toy truck. A stuffed rabbit missing one eye. And then we found photographs. Dozens of them. Polaroids. Pictures of sleeping families taken through windows at night. My blood turned cold when I recognized one of the photos. It was us. Emily sleeping beside me. Taken from inside our bedroom window. The contractor immediately crawled backward, panicking. That's when we heard movement deeper in the darkness ahead. Slow crawling sounds. Coming toward us. I shouted, "Who's there?" The movement stopped. Then a voice answered softly from the darkness. "Don't let him hear you." A pale face suddenly appeared inches from my flashlight beam. A filthy teenage boy. Emaciated. Terrified. And shaking uncontrollably. "I escaped," he whispered. "He keeps the others below." The boy's name was Daniel. He looked no older than 16. His clothes were filthy and torn apart like he'd been living underground for years. The contractor immediately climbed out of the crawlspace to call the police. But Daniel grabbed my arm violently before I could leave. "No police," he whispered frantically. "He hears everything." I asked him who he was talking about. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "The man below the house." At first, I thought the kid was mentally unstable. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. He described Sophie perfectly. Her room. Her stuffed animals. Even the pajamas she wore the night before. Daniel explained he'd been trapped beneath the neighborhood for nearly 3 years. Not just beneath my house. Beneath all the houses. There were tunnels connecting the entire street underground. Secret passageways built decades ago by a man named Walter Grayson. A retired contractor who disappeared in 1998 after several local children vanished. Police never found evidence linking him to the disappearances. Because they never searched underground. Daniel said Walter had been living beneath Maple Street the entire time. Watching families through vents. Listening through walls. Stealing children at night. And then Daniel said something worse. He likes the young ones first. At that exact moment. The lights in the house went out above us. Total darkness swallowed the crawlspace. And from somewhere deep beneath us, we heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Dragging through dirt. Coming closer. Daniel's breathing became frantic. "He found us," he whispered. Then the footsteps suddenly stopped. Right beneath Sophie's bedroom. And a voice growled through the darkness. "Give her back." The police arrived within 20 minutes. But by then, Walter Grayson was gone. The underground tunnel stretched beneath the entire neighborhood like a maze. Police discovered hidden rooms underground filled with stolen clothes, children's drawings, and dozens of missing person belongings dating back nearly 20 years. But no bodies. Only dirt. Freshly moved dirt. Daniel disappeared during the chaos. No one knows where he went. The authorities evacuated the neighborhood immediately. But before we left, I went back into the house one last time to grab Sophie's blanket. That was my biggest mistake. As I entered her bedroom, I noticed the closet door was open. Very slowly. Something moved inside the darkness. At first I thought it was my imagination. Then I heard breathing. Deep. Wet. Exactly like the vent. I backed toward the door. And then a voice whispered from inside the closet. "She belongs below." A hand shot out from the darkness and grabbed my ankle. I screamed and kicked wildly as a thin old man crawled halfway out of the closet. His skin looked gray and rotten. His eyes were huge and bloodshot. And his mouth, God." His mouth was stretched into the widest smile I've ever seen. Police later found Walter hiding inside the walls between Sophie's room and the attic. He had been living there for weeks. Watching us. Listening to us sleep. They arrested him alive. But during interrogation, Walter kept repeating the same sentence over and over again. They never found the lower tunnels. Maple Street was demolished 6 months later. But even now, sometimes Sophie wakes up crying in the middle of the night. And she says she can still hear scratching beneath the floor.